Hello and welcome back to the Single Malt Review, where we always say we bring you whiskies from across the globe. Well, today we're actually going to bring you one from parts afar and not just Scotland, as is our bread and butter. We have got a Kavalan.
Taiwan, certainly a new player on the whiskey scene, and this is one of the newer distilleries too. Was it 2005 they began distilling?
I believe between 2003 and 2005 was when they started really kicking off there. They're a very, very new player, but boy oh boy have they come out swinging.
Yeah, come in leaps and bounds, winning awards and accolades from all over.
Yes, indeed. Sort of probably most awards to any particular distillery in the world, given how long they have been operating. Certainly come out with some strong stuff, and it just goes to show that you can make malt whiskey anywhere you please. Oof, if I can get it out of their loving packaging here. Here we go, I've managed. Put that away, I think. So, Kavalan Solist. For the first 50 times I read that, I thought it was soloist, which makes a bit more sense because this is part of their single maturation range. They do a bourbon, they do a sherry, of which this is, and they do what they call a vino barrique, which is something a bit different altogether, and I suspect that one is completely sold out because that famously won the World Whisky of the Year in 2015, so it still holds that particular honour since they haven't quite held that competition for the 2016, so we will await what they find for that one.
Am I right though? This one was Jim Murray's personal whiskey of the year a couple of years back.
This was Jim Murray's whiskey. It was best new whiskey of the year, and I think 2014 or 2015. So it's a good one. It's absolutely a good one. I promise you that.
So we have a cask strength, fully sherry matured whiskey.
Yes, we do. Cask strength. It's 58.6, pretty solid there. Non-chill filtered, natural colour, all good things.
And what a colour it is too. That is very dark.
Yes, indeed. Safe to say this was a first fill sherry cask. Doesn't say how old it is, and it
Possibly
can be
a combination then.
It's single cask.
Oh, I see.
So we've got the cask number here and everything, if that makes
right.
sense to anybody, which it really doesn't, but it's nice to see it on the bottle. So no, this is one cask, and it's probably around about 10 years old.
Right.
There's obviously a limit to how old it can be. And slightly confusing to pick anyway, because when you take your casks out of a cool environment like Scotland and put them in, say, somewhere like India, like Amrit's case, or Taiwan, in this case, these hot climates, things age at an altogether different rate, and it's usually a much faster rate, and that will be very much the case here. So, though we may be dealing with, it could even be a 6-year-old, 8-year-old whiskey, what we're tasting in the glass, what we're about to be tasting, because I have tried this before, is something that's mature well beyond its years, and that's why it's picked up so many accolades.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal colour too. Knowing it's a natural colour adds to the appeal.
That's you'd have to call that Glendronach-esque, that colour. That's very, very dark. Just about as dark as they go without them being real freaks of nature.
Oh, and immediately on the nose, I'm getting some Glendronach sensations there too, like a very rich, very brandy-soaked Christmas pudding.
Certainly brandy-soaked. I'm getting a real stewed prune, rum and raisin. Yeah. Just all of the dark flavours you can think of, really. There's a bit of really dark vanilla pod there as well.
A rum and raisin, dark chocolate.
There is a bit of dark chocolate, but sweet dark chocolate.
Yeah.
There's nothing dry about this whiskey. There's nothing harsh about this whiskey.
It's festive dessert of a whiskey.
It's very, very sweet. And there's just the hint of a prickle sneaking in on the nose, which makes me think this might be just a little too hot to trot on the palate. But I'll give it the benefit of the doubt.
58.6%, I'd expect. Quite a wallop.
But you know what? You know what, yeah.
Oh, that prickles gently. It's warming, but not hot. And it's sweet and smooth and heavy.
You'd have to call that beguilingly smooth at full strength.
How can something be that strong, but that easy to drink?
That really is quite astonishing. That's well worth a second sip at full strength. And goodness me, what am I getting? Ooh.
More savoury flavours now.
Savoury flavours. Fried banana. If you've ever had fried banana with your breakfast, usually alongside a rasher of bacon, which isn't actually far away on this one, it's quite meaty as well. No, fried banana, some sweet dark chocolate, a bit of orange zest, a lot of chocolate orange actually. If you've ever had one of those wee novelty ones where you bang it on the thing and it opens and it's the whole Christmas festivity. Good when you can't think of another gift actually. There's a lot of that in here.
Also you've tried traditional Scottish clootie dumpling, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
The boiled pudding, which is slightly sweet but also contains suet, type of cooking fat, type of pork fat, I believe.
It's specifically the sort of alcohol sugar-soaked currants and raisins which come up in the clootie dumpling, which is so evident here. That is...
Wow. I'm kind of blown away. You've tried this before, sure?
I have, yes.
I have not. This is our first experience of, any Taiwanese spirit, for that matter.
Well, it's simple in that it's the only Taiwanese spirit, or at least the only one that's going to make it down here. There's probably a few other manufacturers, you could say, but this is the only one that purports itself as a malt whiskey on the international stage.
Add some water.
So I'll put just a little in here.
It almost seems unnecessary because there's just so much flavour and so much drinkability.
Really, it's difficult to overstate just how strangely smooth that is.
Like the last time I've had a spirit of roughly this strength, roughly this drinkability, it'd be, say, Rowan's Creek bourbon. But even that, which I believe is slightly lower strength, is a bit harsher on the tongue and the sinuses at its full strength. Oh, now that it's smelling very strongly of golden syrup, maple syrup. Think of it as very strong, dark sugar syrups.
There's sort of a blend of syrups there. There's golden syrup, there's a little bit of treacle coming in as well. I didn't put too much water in because it was giving so much of a good thing. I didn't want to dilute what was happening because what was happening was really, really rather good. This certainly hasn't diminished anything. It's just those almost sugar cane derivative flavours, almost verging on a very, very fine dark rum, almost, in that there's such an obvious treacle and golden syrup going on here. It does bring me in mind of a very old, very, very good Jamaican rum, if you're a fan of such things, which I am.
Yeah, this is one of those rare times where a lot of the flavours I'm getting after adding water are spirit-based. I'm tasting brandy, dark rum, and actually a bit of sherry as well. The less dry end of the sherry spectrum.
That fried banana, which was so obvious without water, that's receded somewhat. And goodness me, this is whiskey of so many other parts. It's very, very difficult to describe as concisely as I want to. But the best way to describe this, I think, in simple terms, is to describe it as a coming together of a great many other dark spirits. It's almost a consortium between a very, very fine dark rum, a very, very fine aged cognac, and of course a very high quality malt whiskey, which is the only thing it genuinely is. But
if I had to summarise this in as few words as possible, I would say rich pudding. Both of those words taken to the extremes of their definition. It is so rich and so pudding-like. Don't just mean sweet and desserty, but a proper stodgy, brandy-soaked fruit and nut and suet pudding.
It really is phenomenally, phenomenally good.
Yes.
In a way that is, alas, so difficult to describe. For such an international whiskey, it has a very international flavour. Like I say, it's bringing flavours of rum, it's bringing flavours of cognac, and it's bringing them all together in this wonderfully tuned package of what it is. And in doing so, it's quite unlike anything else. This is absolutely a malt whiskey, but it's also its own thing. Whatever unique microcosm of distilling they have up there in Taiwan, whatever their particular climate is, which will be very much of its own. I know it must be, at least for part of the year, quite hot, at least compared to Scotland. It's the aging environment that it's producing is quite unique, because this whiskey has aged in a way quite peculiar to anything in Scotland or even Japan, because Japan will age some tremendous sherry matured whiskey, but really not on this
With those
scale.
independent cask strength, single cask bottlings we're used to from Scotland, normally to get this kind of dark hue and pungent characters and intensity, usually it's quite a significantly older whiskey with a significantly lower alcohol content. In this case, you got all that concentration, but still at a very high alcohol content for a relatively young whiskey.
And it's still changing. With that addition of water and a bit of air, it's now coming into sort of honey roasted almonds, a bit of salt caramel.
Yeah, there's some pistachio and cashew.
It's deeply complex, and it's ever changing as well, such that I will have to stop describing it, or this will go on very, very long. But I cannot overstate just how excellent a whiskey this is. This is genuinely one of the best that we've encountered here on the Single Malt Review, and that's saying something, because we've had a fair few whiskies, and some of them have been pretty jolly good, but this really is stunning. Very few whiskies make me really stand back and truly look at what I'm tasting and really think about it and do a double take, but this one really does. This one has stopped me in my tracks and made me really think about where this comes from and how it was achieved, and I really don't. I'm going to have to do some research on the Kavalan distillery and the very difficult to find information on King Car company that owns it, I should say, of which I know very little about, and I can find very little about. They seem quite secretive, but they sure as hell know their whiskey, I'll give them that.
In terms of accessibility and affordability, is this one people struggle to find or struggle to
This
pay
one
for?
is hard to find, but if you find it, it's not particularly expensive. I bought this one at duty free in Singapore's Changi Airport, which is a pretty good place for duty free whiskey, depending on what you're after, and it did not cost me a great deal of money. Had this been the one that won the World Whiskey of the Year last year, which I, as it happened, did not see on the shelf, surprise, surprise, that would probably cost you a lot more. You're probably going to auction for this one. This one, I think, is treacherously close in quality to that one. Not that I've tried it, but this is just so good that I think if you do see it, and you see it as something you would consider affordable, it's well worth a try, because I'll call so very few whiskies stunning, but this one I really have to.
What prompted you to pick this one up off the shelf too? Like, knowing relatively little about Kavalan as you did at the time.
I know very little about Kavalan, but I do keep up with the Whisky Awards, and
yes.
this one has been making a real noise in regards to awards that have been pinned on it, and so I really I owed it to myself to go and pick this one up when I saw it going past for a price tag that I could live with, and I happened to be in duty free, so why not? Goodness me! As for scores. It's going to be a pretty solid one. It seems I'm fighting with myself here, rather trying to wonder whether I'm being too generous or not. I don't think I am. I think this is a genuinely stunning whiskey. This is a 94. This is a genuinely excellent whiskey, of which there is a very few of in the world. What do you think?
I'm in a very similar ballpark. This one rates for me a 96. It is so close to being essentially a completely perfect whiskey. It has so many strengths, and it is so profound in what it does. Just how intense it is, how accessible it is too. That really it is well up there with many of the best whiskies I've ever tasted.
So there you have it. I think that could be. We'll have to work it out in post, but I believe that's one of the strongest scores we've ever given here at the Single Malt Review. Once you combine our two, I think that may be the strongest score. So there you have it. Stunningly good. And taking all that into account, quite ridiculously affordable. You just have to find it. I think duty free is a good place. But there you go. Who knew that such strong scores would come out of a place so strange as Thailand?
Taiwan, even.
No, Thailand, of course. Taiwan. I'm sure Thailand produces some very fine things, but we haven't encountered one here yet. We'll be first in the queue once they release one, though. Taiwan, I should say. Yes, indeed. No, we will watch Kavalan Distillery very, very closely because they are doing some very, very fine things with their production.
Especially after barely a decade in production too. This is just staggering quality
Yes,
for something
indeed.
so young.
I'm not sure how you say slanger in Chinese, but someone in the comments may be able to correct me. So I'll just say slanger for now. But by goodness, Thailand, you have done it with this one. You really, really have. Hats off to you. Where we always say we bring you Jesus Christ. Well, I was so close, wasn't I? So close.